Hello and welcome to my channel, I Win to Lose Gaming. With 3.0 looming over the horizon, I felt like it was a good time to provide you all with an updated tier list before everything grows out of control. So I want to take a snapshot of the current meta before Dendro's potential drastic impact on the Genshin Impact meta. And of course, my good friend Kono is back to help provide an additional perspective to our usual every few months tier list. But really quick, it's time to pay some bills, and today's sponsor is Divine Arena AFK RPG. Divine Arena is a super convenient idle RPG that you can play vertically and with just one hand. Perfect for when you need the other hand to do a second one-handed activity. Divine Arena takes place in an epically expansive multiverse with various gods from all over the world. There's a ton of heroes to collect, around 100 of them, and the game is consistently updated every month with new heroes to collect. So that way, you can make your ideal team with all your favorite gods. Divine Arena is free to play and provides plenty of free rewards for players every single day. Everyone can enjoy it even if you're completely free to play. Divine Arena is an idle game where you collect an outrageous amount of rewards even when you're not actually playing the game. Progress at your own pace, even while you're not playing in the multiverse of Divine Arena. It also supports both Korean and English. So what are you waiting for? Smash that link down below to get started with Divine Arena AFK RPG today. Huge thanks to them for sponsoring today's video. This is where we left off in the previous patch 2.6 tier list that we made a while ago. And without further ado, let's just hop right into the session that Kono and I had to establish our new tier list. So I have Kono here again for our final tier list before patch 3.0 hits and Dendro's inevitable release. And Kono, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yo, I'm Kono. I'm a VTuber who does like a lot of like challenge runs for like Genshin and stuff. I used to do a lot of count reviews, stuff like that, and I do a lot of theory crafting. Nice to meet you all, and yeah, happy to be here, my dude.
Yeah, welcome back, Kono. And as per tradition for these types of tier lists, if you've been watching them ever since, I don't even remember when our first one was, but the reason why I wanted to get this one out before patch 3.0 hit is that I kind of wanted to have a tier list prior to the crazy incoming meta changes and shifts for the upcoming new element, Dendro. We're not going to really be considering Dendro. Things are going to change a lot once Dendro comes out. Anything that we do now or say about it is going to be too speculative to really be anything concrete, right? It's not until essentially millions of players play it and then we can have a better understanding of how something like that, how good it's going to end up becoming.
I'm super excited what Dendro is going to actually do to the meta, because we can foreseeably like see some like really big shifts. Obviously this is like all like speculation, but there's no way Mohoyo keeps like the same things good, right? Right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think things will get worse, right? Like the current stuff will get worse.
But things are going to be better.
Yeah. So a lot of things are probably going to be much better than they are now. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and hop into just a quick explanation of this tier list as well as the tiers themselves. This is obviously a tier list, and like most tier lists, it is based on our opinions. And, you know, things can generally be shifted around without too much controversy. Like you can move a character up or down a tier even, depending on your personal preferences and experiences with them, or even for your personal account. This is mostly, you know, just kind of how Kono and I feel about these specific characters, as well as, you know, based on some usage statistics. Sorry, I'm learning how to talk again. It's also based on our, you know, many hundreds, if not thousands of hours of anecdotal experience between Kono and myself. We've been playing this game since release and playing this a little too much, if you ask me, or especially if you ask my wife. She's going to tell you guys that.
So this tier list is assuming C0 5 stars and C6 4 stars. This tier list does not take into account things such as like constellations on 5 stars. It does not take into account 5-star weaponry or anything like that.
Yeah, mostly focused towards free-to-play light spenders, right?
We got the SS tier, the cream of the crop, you know, the absolute best. You see these units, and you know, if you're really into like the metagaming, you're like, let me get that. Let me get one of those. You know, you feel me?
Yeah, I mean, most people can look at this SS tier from the previous video and say, yeah, okay, a lot of these characters are really good, and, you know, we feel that way too, that's why they are there. So, next we have the S tier. Great, amazing characters, and really there's an argument to be made for some of them to even go into the SS tier, or situationally, they are SS tier characters. It just really depends. But these characters are great, above average. It's hard to go wrong with investing into them. Now, some of them might be a little not as good as the others. Like once you get to the low S tier, you can make an argument, hey, maybe they should be in the A tier, but still great S tier units. You know, like I said, hard to go wrong with investing into them.
And then we have the A tier. The A tier units are still perfectly functional. You can play the game with like whoever you want, right? It's just you might require a little more investment than otherwise if you were to play like an S or SS tier, right?
Yeah, A tier, I like to use the word as very balanced characters. The next tier for me to describe is the B tier. B tier is, you know, these characters you can use, like Kono mentioned, you can play this game and really beat it. I wouldn't say too comfortably, but beat everything with any character in the game. And B tier units kind of highlight that. These characters, they have their problems. They're either missing out on providing extremely good support roles, or, you know, really valuable support roles, or they're missing out on damage. But you can always hyper invest into them, and you can still complete the game with them. You know, Genshin Impact is a pretty easy, fairly casual game in the end.
I do want to say, even if you're like, if your favorite unit is like even something like Aloy, there's a way you can 36 star the Abyss with it. I have done a 36 star Aloy carry on my free-to-play account. So we have a special tier. These units, technically they aren't flexible enough to be put in a general tier list because they're like, let's use Goro for the example. Goro is like the prime example of this. Goro is literally useless outside of his perspective comps, but he's like SS tier in his main comp.
So you're telling me you haven't tried and shredded with main DPS Goro?
I'm sure you could do it. Like, actually, you could probably do Yunjin, Goro buff, giving the what's it called? Then you run like, I don't know.
No.
Official.
No, hang on. Hang on. You know, we gotta make use of Goro's geo damage, right? So charge shot, main DPS Goro.
Charge shot. You're pushing it a little bit.
Wait. Is this something that I should try? Like, if I can't even do this, maybe what we said earlier about making any character work is.
Okay. If you wanted to main DPS Goro, you would have to probably do it as a physical DPS. I would be incredibly shocked if anybody actually managed to make charge shot geo damage Goro 36 star the Abyss.
No, doesn't he actually do geo damage with like his burst? Like it ticks, right?
Well, his geo damage isn't actually that bad. His geo, you can get up to like 15,000 damage per proc if you build him like a defense husk build. Right.
So then the charge shots. Okay, well, you know, maybe we'll have to do some theory crafting.
I have a strong feeling that I would be impressed. I'm sure somebody could do it. It'd require a lot of gear though.
I'm not even sure enough gear would save him, but all right. So yeah, that's kind of, oh, last tier is the Amber tier. Now you may notice, you might be confused. Why is Xinyan in the Amber tier? Well, Amber used to be in the Amber tier, but we've just been kind of shifting some characters around depending on who's kind of like the worst character of the season. And, you know, maybe, you know, I've been pleasantly surprised with how Xinyan has been in like every single event and every single cutscene ever since we mentioned, hey, Xinyan's not in the story at all. And guess what? Now she's in the story like more than anyone since then, right? Like they threw her in Yunjin's thing, they threw her in the most recent event, they threw her in that labyrinth thing. I mean, she's just everywhere now. So good for her. We are likely going to see some positive some positive developments for our favorite character, Xinyan.
The Amber tier is essentially flavor of the month, but the flavor is all fucking
great. So we've gone through the tiers. We've gone through, I guess, Kono's introduction, everything. Do check her out at twitch.tv/Kono Kono. Kono really will interact with you guys and answer your questions and all this stuff, and I really trust her judgment when it comes to this game and providing advice for it. So yeah, absolutely. If you guys have feelings about this tier list, or want to ask some questions, she's a great person to go ahead and ask.
Better yet, if you disagree with something, I can sit down and explain why something is rated a certain way. I'm completely down to do that. So
we're gonna get started with adjustments like we usually do, and what we like to do is we like to move from the bottom to the top, and I'm gonna kick this one off because I've been excited to talk about the Amber tier for some time. In every video I find some joy in this. Maybe, I don't know, maybe something's wrong with me, but I'm gonna promote Xinyan. We decided to promote Xinyan out of the Amber tier and into the B tier. Where in the B tier? Drum roll please. Above Razor. Now that is quite the impressive promotion, and the reason for that is actually because a few reasons, and one reason I think Kono will tell you after I tell you my personal reasoning. Xinyan as a physical DPS character was missing a crucial element, and that is something to heal while also applying super conduct, but also allowing Rosaria to be on the team, because Rosaria is one of the best character on the cryo side in order to apply super conduct. So, because Xinyan, her actual damage when at Constellation 6 with her charge attacks and just with her basic attacks actually isn't that terrible. Okay, by not that terrible, we're talking about comparing her to these other characters in the B tier, right? I'm not saying like, hey, not terrible in comparison to someone like Yelan. No, it's terrible, right? But like, for B tier standards, she's surprisingly usable when it comes to using her as a main physical DPS character. But yes, Konosecopium, that's very accurate. That's why she's still in the B tier, right? Next to her good buddy and even more neglected and overlooked Razor, as well as Chongyun. Has Chongyun even been in the story?
He was okay in the Lantern Rite, the second Lantern Rite event. He showed up. He showed up as a side character in a side event.
Oh my goodness. So, we used to meme on Xinyan for being not represented in the story in this game, but now that I'm looking at this B tier, we've got Chongyun, we've got Aloy, like these characters, I forget they exist if it weren't for the fact that like they were on this tier list.
I'm gonna be honest, if you C6 Bennett and you want to play Xinyan, it's probably best if you play her as a monopyro character, because it's actually like quite a bit better than I think playing her normally. Unless you have something like a Skyward Pride, because you have access to Kaza and then you have access to like Xiaoning.
The next character that we are moving is Thoma, and he is now in the Amber tier, replacing our friend Xinyan down here. Now, why is this? Is Thoma really the worst character in the game? That I'm not really willing to say, but I think for a lot of people's psyches, he is now the worst character because they were pulling on the Kazuha banner, and now they have the cleanest house in existence because they got 13 Thomas.
Thoma's entire kit gets outperformed. Well, not really outperformed, but by a single other 4 stars constellation, which is C4 Yanfei. We're gonna move Yai Miko, and Official up to the bottom of S tier. And the reason for this is because Taser and just like electric teams as a whole, I think weren't necessarily like fairly related, especially with the advent of like stuff like, I think the Theory Crafter community calls it like a soup team. I've always just called it like an overbake team. So with Taser and like all these other things being like very viable options, especially now, and soup teams, I think it's only fair to rate Official and the Amico.
With patch 3.0 coming up, even though we said we're not talking about Dendro, yeah, that's all I can say about that. Next is Rosaria. We have decided to move her up, even though it's just like a couple spots and she was already in high A tier. After some deliberation, we debated in the last tier list whether we should move her up to the bottom of S tier. I was fine with it. I was open to it, but at the same time, these videos get pretty long, so I was like, she's fine there. But today we decided to actually bump her up to the bottom of S tier. I mean, if you're familiar with Rosaria with a few constellations, she does a ton of off-field, all meltable cryo damage, and you know, she herself can just output a lot of reverse melt damage. On top of that, you know, at Constellation 6, she's one of the best physical DPS support characters, even though physical DPS kind of not in flavor recently, but still, it's still good when you have a character like Eula. Kono was actually the main advocate for this, so anything you want to add on that?
Okay. Can I talk a little bit of math? Just a little bit.
Of course.
A little tiny bit. Okay, so Rosaria actually has a 283% mon that ticks 6 times at talent level 13, and then the initial swipe does like 600%. All that is for meltable, but the reason why that Rosaria is actually good is because you can pair her with Kaza, Shenhe, and Bennett to form a reverse Vape Rosaria team, and it does like, you can get upwards even with a free-to-play option to like 150k like melt tick. It's actually really gross in single target.
Yoimiya, yeah, Kono, why don't you kick this one up?
Okay. So Yoimiya is moving up to S tier above Kokomi. Let's be honest, Yelan like made Yoimiya like a lot better. Yoimiya is already like on the fence of like a unit that could be like S tier. The S tier is looking a little bit crowded here, but it's not a bad thing. It means like most units are like actually pretty strong. So Yoimiya got like a pretty big damage boost. Yeah, I mean, I always thought Yoimiya got, you know, crapped on by the community and the theory crafting community really harshly for a long time. I mean, I think people really overlooked also the benefits of being ranged as well. Yoimiya is the Unga Bunga ranged character in the game. She's not meant to, you know, output as high like peak DPS as a character like Hu Tao, but at the same time, you know, there's a lot of opportunity cost for running from point A to point B to hit your opponents. And Yoimiya actually really provides a lot, not only quality of life, but saves on both the commute time, the travel time, due to her ranged attacks. That's kind of the problem with spreadsheet, analyzing a character's value and strength purely based on a theoretical spreadsheet rotation, is that you're missing out on A, the quality of life, B, the ease of use, and finally C, the lack of actual dashing commute time, which drains stamina and aka DPS for a character like Hu Tao or even a character like Klee who rely on that stamina to do damage. In my opinion, you know, Yoimiya was very underrated for a long time, and me having used her for so long, she's a great character, and she's still one of my go-to units all the time. Actually, I use her all the time. So yeah, I think she's well deserving of this S tier placement. Kazuha, Bennett, Yoimiya is still just, it just does a lot of damage. Even if it's single target, it's still a lot of damage. Well, you have Kazuha too, so it doesn't matter. You don't have as much single target because Kazuha is going to kill everything anyway.
Kazuha disposes of trash so well that, you know, you leave the bulky targets for Yoimiya.
I was gonna say, there's one more thing that I want to say about Yoimiya is that her team comps are actually the most flexible out of pretty much any pyro character.
The next character we have is Sucrose, and she's getting a big promotion. We are bumping her up to the SS tier right under Xingqiu for now. One issue that Sucrose had and still has is that Kazuha and Venti exist. One thing that Sucrose has going for her over them is that she does not need constellations, well, at least in terms of Kazuha's case, to share a ton of elemental mastery to her team. That's just really important even today. And, you know, I don't know how important it's going to be in the future. I absolutely have no idea how important that's going to be in the future.
Actually, I've been pushing for this for a little bit. Wow, I don't necessarily think that she is more versatile of a unit than Kazuha. It's a little lacking because she's only used for like on-field taser or international. She is like the largest damage enhancer for like international comps, specifically in the entire game, and international or just like national in general. One of the strongest team comps.
Yeah, okay, so Sucrose finally in the SS tier, and for both the current meta as well as the current meta. So we have 3 new characters since patch 2.6, I think. So actually we did this tier list fairly recently in comparison to how often we usually do them, but since then we've had 3 new characters. We have Kuki Shinobu, Yelan, and Heizou. I'll kick this one off with Kuki first. And Kuki Shinobu, we have decided to actually put her in the A tier right above Sayu. And there's a few reasons for me why I personally justify this, is that originally we had talked about putting her in the B tier above Barbara, but when you really put her next to Barbara, I just feel like, you know, she is better than Barbara. Like, she doesn't freeze you all the time and, you know, shock you all the time. Like, there's just a lot of annoying things with Barbara that you want to avoid. She heals a pretty good amount too, right? Like, you know, you're not going to have issues with healing with Kuki, and she also consolidates the role of superconduct for Electro teams. I really like using Kuki a lot with Eula personally, providing healer tenacity as well as the Electro side of superconduct. This is a very nice quality of life as well as a very nice, I would not really call it a buff, but just like a small little thing to help Eula teams.
She's like a guaranteed fab proc, even if you have like 20% crit rate because of how many hits she gets in her rotation, right? She has Millilith, and her E is persistent, which means that you can almost like indefinitely maintain either Millilith or instructors. Her ICD is weak, which makes her good for specifically superconduct because she applies electro every other hit, meaning that you won't clear cryo on an enemy, which means that you can run like Eula, Rosaria plus Kuki, which means that you open up your third slot because the best team for Eula before it was Eula, Rosaria, Raiden, Zhongli, but because you've opened up this slot for electro consolidation plus healer in one single role, it means you can fit a fourth slot, which means personally I've had the best results with Yelan as the best team because, well, for one, even though that you like shatter every other hit, which is unfortunate, you essentially get the 50% damage bonus from Yelan right as
Eula's burst explodes.
Expires, like yeah. Eula's burst expires.
Speaking of Yelan, we have mentioned her quite a few times. Kono, why don't you kick this one off? This is a big one.
What? Excuse me?
Okay, I'm not tricking anyone with that. So we'll move her where she belongs.
I don't think this should be anybody's surprise. It's literally Xingqiu, but more damage. She offers those hydro application than Xingqiu, yes. But like at C0, Yelan, like with Fab Bow, that only does like 30% more damage than Xingqiu, assuming that like they're both like Fab weapons or whatever. Being able to shorten like your rotations is good. It's good.
Yeah, Xingqiu's extra few seconds really hurts.
Yeah, and the 50% damage units, like.
And in many teams, you can run her without the Fav too, which, you know, just pushes her damage even more outrageous above and beyond. You know, like when I realized when I was doing that DPS showdown, like I know, you know, it's not a great metric for measuring how strong characters are, but when she started just trashing Constellation 6 Xingqiu with the Jade Cutter, I was just like, what the heck is going on? Yelan does so much damage, and you know, not on top of that, she adds 50% bonus damage. On top of that, she's so universal. You can slap her on pretty much any team almost, and she'll do really well. Yelan buffed Xiao too, right? Like, you know, she's buffing characters that you're just like, what? Yelan was a buff to Xiao. Yelan is a buff to Klee, to Luke, all these characters. Even though we're not moving them around in the tier list, you slap Yelan in one of those slots, and she's going to excel.
She just does so much damage that like it's unreasonable considering she does it all off field.
We've got to move on. I've got to go in literally 1 minute, so poor Heizou is not going to get as much screen time as he deserves, honestly, but we decided to put him right here, right? This is fine, I think? Or was it
he's like first DPS. He's not actually a on-field carry. He's a burst DPS. Just look at a C1.
Yeah, sorry, I've got to go.
Go.
Yeah. So okay, Heizou S tier. You know, one reason why he's a bit maybe lower than what some of you guys might expect is because for on-field and damage amplification purposes, we have Sucrose, and he himself, while he does pop a nice 60 or 90k punch every 10 seconds or so, that's why he's deserving. He still does some damage, some pretty decent burst damage, like Kono said. His grouping is pretty weak though, unfortunately, and the amount of EM he provides is not as crazy as Sucrose is. So yeah, still good character though, do recommend. So here we have the final tier list for patch 2.8 that Kono and I came up with. Let me know down below whether you agree or disagree with our tier list. And of course, although I haven't been speedrunning as much lately, I did make a tier list for the Whale Constellation 6 for 5-5 speedrunning tier list. As you can see, I do think very highly of Yelan. And don't forget to smash the sponsors link down below, as that definitely helps my channel out a ton. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. This is I Win to Lose, signing out.